On December 25th, a tragic crash involving Embraer 190 operated by Azerbaijani Airlines took place. The aircraft was on a route from Baku, Azerbaijan to Grozny, Russia. Based on the information available at this moment and the opinions of different experts, it seems that the only plausible explanation why this crash happened is because Russia shot it down. Today we'll be talking what happened on December 25th. The day when most of my viewers were celebrating Christmas. At 7:49 a.m. Baku time, the Embraer 190 aircraft took off from Baku, Azerbaijan. It was scheduled to land in Grozny, Russia just over 2 hours later. At 10 a.m., the aircraft issued a distress signal. The Embraer 190AR, operated by Azerbaijani Airlines, declared an emergency and requested to land at Aktau Airport in Kazakhstan. The expected landing time was set for 11:25 a.m. At 10:28, the plane stopped responding to communications, and 2 minutes later, it crashed. Information about the tragedy spread across the social media of those post-Soviet countries really quickly, and within a few days, we were able to emerge so much information that will show us what actually happened. We should begin by noticing that according to Rosaviatsia, which is a Russian agency for aviation, basically an agency that controls all aircraft and all flights inside of Russia, they claimed that just before the Azerbaijani plane was supposed to land in Grozny, Grozny airport was attacked by Ukrainian drones. Plane's navigation systems were jammed by the Russian electronic warfare, and there were also communication disruptions between the pilots and air traffic controllers. Due to these technical issues, the aircraft was unable to land twice. Had the Russian electronic warfare not jammed the navigation system of the plane, the pilots would have no trouble to land the airplane even though there was some fog over there. When the aircraft tried to fly to the alternative airport, the pilots reported a bird strike, and passengers heard some bangs. It would only later emerge that this was caused by Russian air defense systems. After that, the pilot reported problems controlling the aircraft. The pilot also mentioned a loss of cabin pressure. According to available information, the designated alternative airport was in Baku, which is basically the same city from which the plane had departed. However, Baku and all nearby airports, Mineralny Vody, Makhachkala, Derbent, were inaccessible due to the mountainous terrain, which posed a risk given the depressurization and difficulties controlling the aircraft. Therefore, the pilot made the most logical decision to head for Aktau Airport in Kazakhstan. Another key factor was that the terrain there is steep, which meant that even if the plane missed the runway, its chances of remaining intact on flat land were higher than they would have been in the mountains. Due to control problems during landing, the aircraft broke apart. After the crash, external damage from the air defense fire could be seen on the aircraft's fuselage. There were 67 people on board, and 38 lost their lives, including the pilot, Igor Kshyakin, and Alexander Kalyaninov, as well as flight attendant Hokuma Aliyeva. This isn't the first time that Russia has been the cause of an aviation disaster. We can recall the Malaysian Boeing that was shot down by Russian forces in 2014. Back then, Russia never acknowledged the responsibility, and those behind this act of terrorism faced no punishment. But now, 3 days later, Putin has apologized to the president of Azerbaijan, who openly states, while in Russian airspace, the plane was subjected to physical and technical interference from outside, which can be interpreted as an air defense attack. Most likely, the apology was prompted by pressure from Turkey, given how close Turkey and Azerbaijan are allied, as well as from Azerbaijan itself, which helps Russia circumvent sanctions. But what were Putin's apologies exactly? Vladimir Putin offered his apologies in connection with the tragic incident that took place in Russian airspace, and once again expressed his deep and sincere condolences, according to the Kremlin's website. So the leader of Russia is only apologizing for the fact that this accident happened over the territory of Russia. He's not apologizing because his armed forces basically shut down the plane. He's only apologizing that it happened over the territory of Russia. In other words, a murder of your citizens happened in my house, and let's put aside who actually did the killing. But I ask for sorry that it happened in my house. Very often when tragedies occur due to Russia's action, Russian propaganda begins fabricating and proliferating countless conspiracy theories, many of which contradict each other. In the case of the Malaysian Boeing 10 years ago, there were absurd theories that have long been debunked. The most ridiculous version was aired on Channel 1, claiming that it was a terrorist act carried out by Ukrainian air forces, and they presented a photo as a proof that clearly showed signs of photo manipulation. This time was no exception. reaction, as Russia began actively promoting theories about a gas cylinder explosion and a bird strike. Following this, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev remarked that during the first 3 days, they heard, quote, nothing but absurd theories from Russia. One of the aspects that upset and surprised us was that the Russian official bodies put forward versions about the explosion of some gas cylinder. This clearly showed that the Russian side wanted to sweep the issue under the rug, and of course, that does no credit to anyone, Aliyev stated in an interview. I also have to share a rather repulsive incident that occurred 2 days after the plane crash. Using state funds, remember, right after an air disaster, a TV commercial was released in which Ded Moroz, which is basically the Russian version of Santa Claus, uses air defense systems to shut down Santa Claus.
Ho, ho, ho! Hi, Russian! Here are your presents! Happy New Year! Holy shit!
Все?
Все. Цель уничтожена.
Правильно. Не нужно нам ничего иностранного в нашем небе. С Новым годом!
И тебя, дед. Всех с Новым годом.
Another thing, besides the Santa video, that shocks any reasonable person is this. Ramzan Kadyrov, one of Russia's most prominent politicians, awarded his nephew, Hamzat Kadyrov, the Secretary of Security for Chechnya, with a medal for service for the Chechen republics on December 26th. This is the same nephew who proudly reported on December 25th that all drones over Chechnya had been shot down. Yet none of the Kadyrovs seems the least bit troubled by the fact that one of the so-called drones was actually an Azerbaijani Airlines plane. This disaster is yet another consequence of the war launched by Putin. If there had been no air defense or electronic warfare systems at the airport, these people, many of whom were neither Russians nor Ukrainian citizens, would not have died. Many of the companies that still operated in Russia, even after the sanctions were introduced, are now beginning to suspend their flights there. Little by little, Russia is becoming a country that international airlines are afraid to fly over. Let me remind you that just 7 years ago, there were direct flights from Moscow to New York, Washington DC, Miami and Los Angeles. This tragedy is in Putin's and the Russian government's hands. And the most terrifying thing is that it's just one episode among many atrocities he has committed over the past 24 years. And lastly, I would like to add this. Recently, just a couple days ago, Putin had this direct line with Vladimir Putin, almost an annual live event where people, citizens of Russia, can ask their Tsar different questions. And then one question, why Putin actually decided to start special military operation, the so-called military operation. He answered.
Знаете, когда у нас все спокойно, размеренно, стабильно, нам скучно. Застой. Хочется движухи. Как только начинается движуха, все свистит у виска. И секунды, и пули, к сожалению, и пули сейчас свистят. Так нам страшно. Ужас, ужас. Ну, ужас. Но не ужас, ужас, ужас.
Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share with your friends. There are ways to support the channel. Links are in the description below. See ya in the next videos. Bye.